when we recognize that all of us are, I say that a lot, and it sounds cliche, but I mean it sincerely, but we all are in this together on some level,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and everybody's story is different. And yet there's so many parts of our stories through health and weight loss, and whether it's keto or something else, like we're all doing this, we're all trying to
Sure.
better who we are. And so, yeah, you
Yeah.
hope that the dots connect for people as we share our stories.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is an honor.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. It's I guess I was just looking back, and it was just over a year ago that you were on Gormy's podcast there.
Yeah, is that's I think how we initially connected, right?
Yeah, yeah. I listened to that podcast, and that's when I found you on Instagram.
Yeah,
It's
that's great, man.
yeah. No, it's great to talk to guys like you on this kind of platform. To I don't know how many people it's really reaching, but
Well,
like I said, if you can reach one person, that's worth it, right?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Even when I post stuff, I'll get one guy or gal reaching out and just saying, "This is exactly what I needed today." And so for me, a lot of times those posts are for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of me just kind of getting some of that stuff out. And so when I hear that it helps somebody or inspired somebody,
Sure.
like it's completely worth it to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I started Instagram on just no, why not?
Right.
But then it turned into something where, you do get that reaction, not all the time, but sometimes you get people that honestly seem to think it made a difference. So,
Yeah.
that's all we can hope for, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's all we can, when we recognize that all of us are, I say that a lot, and it sounds cliche, but I mean it sincerely, but we all are in this together on some level,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and everybody's story is different. And yet there's so many parts of our stories through health and weight loss, and whether it's keto or something else, like we're all doing this, we're all trying to
Sure.
better who we are. And so, yeah, you
Yeah.
hope that the dots connect for people as we share our stories and stuff,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I hear you. Well, speaking of that,
Yeah.
why don't we start off with your story, like a little bit about your background and what led you down this keto lifestyle path.
Sure. How far back do we want to go?
Yeah, go wherever you want.
Yeah.
It's just a conversation. So
Yeah. Okay, man.
yeah.
Well, you know what? I think it's important to go all the way back to my childhood,
Mm.
because I think a lot of things were formed in those early years for me. I was, born and raised in Southern California, and it was just me and my mom. And to this day, um, I've actually never met my biological dad, and so it was just her and I, and I think mom was doing, the absolute best that she could, raising me
Mhm.
and stuff. And so a lot of times she was working multiple jobs, 3, 4 jobs at a time, just to raise me and stuff. And so I think a lot of times we were we were just kind of running around, and so food and dinner and all those things were, a lot of times it was fast food, and a lot of times it was too much. And so early on, I established just kind of a poor relationship with food, and that kind of thing. Um, but that it's crazy when we look at those times in our life, and just how so much of, everybody like teases about their childhood stuff, but yet it had such an impact, on us. And it didn't really become an issue for me until I was a little older in life. I wasn't heavy growing up, or anything like that, but it did affect me. And I realized that when I got older, when I would deal with any kind of stress or feeling of out of control, it took me right back to that 9, 10, 11-year-old child, that a lot of times I think when things were stressed in our life, because she was trying to do the best that she can as a mom, single mom, um, a lot of times it was medicated with food. Like, hey, everything's going to be okay, let's get ice cream. Hey, everything's going to be okay, let's go grab Mexican.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that kind of just internally became like such a default for me as an adult. And but then, but then as an adult, you have choices to make, and I got into working with students. I've done student ministry for the better part of 30 years. And, and if you know anything about, working with students, it's nachos and pizza and Mountain Dew, and, you're eating on the go, and you're doing all that kind of stuff, hanging with teenagers and stuff. And so that just kind of became, I was trying to be one of the kids, and so I would eat like them and act like them, and, all that stuff. And then one day you wake up and you're almost 400 pounds, now that's over the course of 30 years. I kind of gave you a nutshell,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
with that, but really that's my relationship with food was just always poor, and I never really took care of myself, and I just yo-yo diet, for all those 30 years. I'd gain weight, I'd lose weight, and I did everything out there. I did the Weight Watchers and Lindora, if you remember that one. There was just so many different ones that I would do, and I was successful at them, when I would actually commit to them. But over time, the weight would come back on, and it was never something that was a actual, a lifestyle change. I always tell people that, behavior modification, we can modify our behavior for a short amount of time, but if we actually never change, like what's going on in here or what's going on in here, it's never going to be lasting. And that can be applied to anything, right? To
Yeah.
our weight, to our relationships, to the way that we do our job or we don't do our job in life. If we don't really actually have a change of heart, it's never going to change. So I was good at modifying, but I was never good at changing. 2018, it was the year I actually had just moved to Texas that year, and it was at the end of a long week of camp, and my family actually had gone back to California to visit, and so I was here all alone, and doing camp, and at the end of the camp, I just remember how exhausted and sick that I just felt, and I felt alone, because I had nobody here, and that I should have added that. That takes me back to when I was a kid too, because when I was a kid, that was a big issue for me. Because mom was working so much, I was dropped off at a lot of different places, and so the idea of being alone or isolated, that is definitely rose up in my adult life, and so dealing with the idea of being alone, whether it's true or not, sometimes you get it in here that those things are true. So there I was, end of the week, exhausted, feeling alone, feeling sick. And I don't know what got into my head, but I got on the scale for probably the first time in a very long time. And I couldn't believe the number that was, that was there. And I was horrified by what I saw. And I realized in that moment that things were going to go one way or the other. I was either going to not do the behavior modification to actually change, or I literally felt like, you know what? I could cut my life short by continuing this path. I could die of a heart attack. I could have died on a heart attack that day because it sure felt like it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting on the bathroom floor, and I just broke down, and I was crying, and I was just empty, and I was like, I need to make a change. And I don't know if it was rock bottom, Jason, but it was near the bottom, if that makes any sense. And that day I made a choice to start changing my life and start just figuring it out. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I was afraid to diet. I didn't want to just jump into something again, and because I had done that before. So I started doing research, and you know, uh, keto was the buzzword at the time, and I'm like, what is this? And so I started reading, some of the rules about it, and it sounded like something I had done back in 2005 when Atkins was,
Mm-hmm.
kind of all the rage. But then I started seeing some of the little nuances that were different, and I actually started reaching out to people. Started reaching out to people, um, like, we mentioned Gormy. There's been a few other people that have just been, they've been awesome. Anything I've ever asked them, any questions I've had, they've uh, they've always taken the time for me, and that helped me to start getting, started in changing my life. And
Mm-hmm.
that was 2.5 years ago. So
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing or the biggest part that you mentioned there is that sort of mindset or the shift that comes along with making a change in your life. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was the same thing for me. You know, I didn't really struggle too much with weight, but I was getting to the point where I had a young grandson and
Okay.
I couldn't keep up with him. It was like I knew that I had to make a change.
Yeah.
So it was the same thing with me. I did about 2 or 3 weeks worth of research, and I was talking to one of my cousins, and she'd been on keto for about a year, and so that January 1st in 2019, that's with
Yeah.
me. If I'm going to do something, that's I just step in and do it, and I just
Yeah.
a year later, it was just so easy to maintain. Like there's times where it's a little bit difficult, but
Sure.
if you've got that reason why you're doing it and you can remember that reason why, then I think that's
Yeah.
the big way to maintain it, right?
No, absolutely. I think you have to have that why. And I think that applies to every part of life, right? Without the why, what are we doing? Like
Hmm.
why am I wanting to be better? Why am I wanting to be, pursue a career or a relationship or whatever the case may be? There has to be
Hmm.
a why of why we're doing things, because if without that why, it's all meaningless. And at the end of the day, you might accomplish a big goal, but without the why, I think it
Hmm.
leaves you still a little bit empty on the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. It's well, even this whole YouTube thing,
Hmm.
it's I struggled with trying to figure out whether or not I wanted to do it, but then I figured, I've got the time now, and like
Yeah.
we talked about at the beginning, if you can help one person,
Yeah.
it's worth it to put yourself out there and just do things that are uncomfortable, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think having a platform like this, I've watched some of the episodes, and I just like the guys that you get on here. You're just talking about life. You're talking about the journey. You're talking about
Hmm.
the ups and the downs. The like we can, you can look at a before and after picture and see the success in somebody's life. But that's awesome. Like, right? We want to cheer that
Hmm.
person on. We want to root for that person.
Right.
But I want to talk about the hard days when nothing seems to be working the way that we wanted to, or things are just hard, or every trigger has been flipped that day.
Hmm.
And that's when it goes back to what you said about the why.
Yeah.
Like you have to
Yeah.
remind yourself of those things. So I think it's good.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's you can have the good days where nothing bothers you and you sleep
Yeah.
well and you don't have any stress, and then you have those days where you get a crappy night's sleep and everything goes wrong at work, and at the end of the day all you really want to do is eat a pint of ice cream, but it's instead you go home and get some bacon or pepperettes and
Yes.
move on with life, right? So
Yeah, you try
yeah.
your best. And same
Yeah.
with me, that a lot of times on those hard days, you know I walking has really been my kind of my go-to as far as working out and
Hmm.
stuff. And so just getting outside, breathing the air, and just letting the stress of the day get behind me.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll journal about it, but really the walk for me is the thing that is that outlet for me.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So so you're saying you've been keto just over what, 2.5 years, something
Two
like
and a
that?
half years, yes,
Yeah.
sir. And I've
Yeah.
lost 124 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and I still probably have. Well, it depends who I talk to. Some people are like, "You look great. You don't need any more."
Hmm.
And I go, "Yeah, I'd like to lose probably another 45 or 50. Because I
Sure.
I know what I look like when I don't have the clothes on.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
Yeah,
that's
it's one of
that's
those. Yeah, it's a struggle between what you would like to see and what your body wants to do. I think some days,
yeah,
like after the first year I was on keto, I was down under 200 pounds, and
that's awesome.
my body just doesn't really want to be there. I don't think, I'm probably
Yeah,
back up to 212, something like that.
yeah.
But I feel 100% better
Oh, I
than I
bet.
did 2 years ago. So,
Yeah,
whether or not I can maintain under 200, I don't think really matters at this point. But you're right. It's kind of a game between your mind and your body and the scale, right?
yeah, it definitely is. And I'm trying to
Yeah.
find the balance of all those things and not give, too much power to any one of those things,
Hmm.
outside of,
Hmm.
I really want to just be the healthiest version of myself. Whatever
Hmm.
that number looks like at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I'm, but it's still an adventure. I think I kind of messed with myself a few weeks ago though. And I had posted something saying that I felt like I was in the final lap, of my weight loss journey, because I feel like I'm getting close. But the final lap could be another year from now, because
Hmm.
my body has changed. In the very beginning of keto, you know how it goes, right? You're dropping weight every week.
Hmm.
It seems like that scale, you get down, now 124 pounds for me, and my body's like, I don't think so. I think we're going to hold on, you
Yeah.
know. And so the
Yeah.
final lap, like I had that in my head, and I realized, I don't know if I'm necessarily in the final lap. Maybe I need to change my wording, because the wording kind of got in my head a little bit,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And so,
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I've posted a few times about, there is no finish line, right?
yeah,
Being healthy is just a lifestyle. It's,
yeah,
what that goal is. I learned quite a while ago not to worry about the goal. As long as I felt good every day, that basically is the finish line for me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I like that. I think that's a healthy way to be,
mhm,
and healthy in a holistic way too. Our whole body, our mind, our body, um, just our emotions, all those things. They all play into all of this.
mhm,
I've said this in some of my posts that, you know the goal isn't necessarily to be skinny,
mhm,
because we could get to be skinny, but if we haven't worked on anything that's going on with us mentally or emotionally, we're no better off. We'll find other ways to self-destruct,
mhm,
if you would. And so for me, it's really been a journey. Like at first, it definitely was like the weight and doing that. But as I dove deeper into keto, I realized I really need to figure out how I got to almost 400 pounds,
mhm,
you know, and
mhm,
I think that's been the bigger challenge for me, because if you do keto and you do what you're supposed to, for the most part, it kind of takes care of itself. And sometimes you have to tweak it, you have to make some adjustments. But the bigger part for me has been what's going on inside of me internally, because at the other
mhm.
end of this, I want to be better. All of me, not just part of me, and not just from an appearance standpoint. I want to be the best version that I've ever been of myself,
Yeah.
and it's, I do give keto a lot of credit for that, because it helped me to start feeling better about myself. you
Mhm.
know you start getting that self-confidence back, you start looking in the mirror, you're like, hey, I'm changing.
Right.
But then that led to me saying, well, I don't want to just change in the mirror, I want to change who I am
Right.
altogether. So
Yeah.
that part of the journey has been amazing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like it's 2 years ago, I would have even thought about going on YouTube, but
Yeah,
now it's changed my life to the point where I have confidence enough to just try things. Right. I
yeah,
don't put a lot less stress in life, and
yeah.
it's but it is a constant battle, really, of
it,
trying to
it is.
balance the diet and balance sleep and stress, and
Yeah,
because one of them gets off and then it just throws everything off, I think.
it, it definitely does. And I would say, like, for me, sleep is a big one. uh, some days I have amazing sleep, and then there's days where, for whatever reason, I just did not sleep that night. I don't know if it's keto. Sometimes 3 in the morning you just get that burst of energy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, well, yeah.
I wake up almost every morning at 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I can't get
Oh,
back to sleep for like half an hour.
yeah,
I should just get up. It's funny, over the last year, I get up earlier and earlier every day
yeah,
because there's no point in trying to sleep. So, you know,
right. Yeah, that's tough.
so now I edit videos at 6 in the morning. So,
But at least you're being productive with the time, and
right.
you're using it to, like you said, hopefully helping a few people out there. And
Hmm. Yeah.
I think it's awesome that you're doing this.
Yeah.
So
So, what's the sort of diet looking like these days as far as nutrition? Basically just status quo for the last 2.5 years, or?
Yeah, for the most part. I I will say that there for a while I started getting a little bit lax in. It was all keto, but you start seeing these wonderful treats that people start
Mhm.
talking about at the store, and then you start seeing some recipes that people are like, oh man, I got to try all that stuff. That all looks amazing.
Mhm.
And I allowed myself a little too much of that stuff, and it definitely affected me. And so, right past the holidays, just this last year, I went back to really just straight basic, you know, uh, just as basic as it could possibly be, keto.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I did away, and I'm not saying that these things are inherently evil, because they're not. It's just for me and the way that my body was processing things. Having an extra helping of Lily's chocolate with peanut butter, uh, like as delicious as it was,
Yeah.
it was definitely affecting me,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I stalled out for just the longest time,
Mhm.
and I knew it. Like in the back of my head, I knew it. At the same time, I'm like, oh, but this is good, and it's low carbs, and there's no sugar in it. And my body's like, yeah, that's a cute idea, but it's gonna it's gonna keep it's you're not gonna lose any of this weight, man. And
Mm.
so
Yeah.
I've eliminated most of that stuff, from my diet, and
Mhm.
just really doing your basic, just a lot of good proteins, um, good vegetables. I'm not doing any kind of carnivore or anything like that. Some days I'll eat carnivore, not on purpose, but out of choice.
Sure.
Just because that's what sounded good, and I didn't have a side to go with the meat, you know. And then I really use the fat as a leverage,
Mhm.
and to that helps sustain me, and then of course I'm doing my fasting. I'm drinking a ton of water, um, and I'm tracking literally every calorie that goes in my body.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and I know some people just do intuitive eating, and and that's great. And maybe at one point I will be able to get to that point. I did it for a few weeks, and I failed.
Did you
I
find you were overeating or
Oh,
undereating?
I was definitely overeating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just and I'm like, okay, this is weird. Here I am not counting a single calorie, and I ate, you know, 750 more calories than I normally would on any given day.
Mm.
And why am I still hungry?
Mhm.
And so that was the interesting part. And so for what I've allowed for calories, a lot of times I don't even get to that amount. I
Mhm.
do my best to try to get to that, but I don't always do that. And but then on the days where I wasn't counting it, I would actually calculate it in my mind, and I'm going, why am I'm way over and I'm still hungry? What's going on?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
don't know if that was just a mental thing that was happening, but I didn't I didn't do well with that. But that's me. How about you? Do you track, or do you do anything like that?
Nope, I
Yeah.
haven't. I don't think I've tracked a thing in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah. That's awesome.
What I did change, I think, for most of 2020, I think I was fasting too much. Like it was more of a
Yeah.
4-hour eating window every day, almost.
Okay.
Weekends were pretty much wide open, but 5 days a week, I was only eating between like 5 o'clock when I got home and eight
Yeah.
o'clock when I stopped eating. And I didn't really feel right doing that because I
Yeah.
was trying to eat too much in that short of time because I
Yeah.
was trying to still get the calories that I needed. Um,
Yeah.
but it just didn't sit well. So again, this year, and I fell into that keto treat trap last year too.
Yes.
I think half of it had to do with Instagram and making fat bombs for pictures and all this stuff. So I did this. I did the same thing last January. I just cut out all the crap and
Yeah.
got it out of the house, and just like when I started, just go back to the basics. But then I also changed to like a 8-hour eating window.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
make sure to
That's what I do.
I make sure to eat at noon every day,
Yeah.
and then I'm not trying to stuff myself at night because
Yeah.
then you get too much at night and you can't sleep well. And
Yeah.
so that's been a great change. Like I feel a lot better
Yeah.
doing that.
That's great.
Um, it, honestly, there might be things for me to change if I tracked all the time, but I don't stress about it too much, really.
Yeah.
If I'm hungry, I eat, and usually when I'm done eating, I'm not hungry anymore. So
Yeah. Well,
that's
and
good.
and I think that's good. And I am learning to trust my body more, on
Mm-hmm.
those days where, I will sometimes go over the whatever I've given myself for calories if my body is hungry. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling like, wow, I need the food, I need the fuel, I'll fuel up. I don't have a problem with that. But then
Right.
I'll also do less on days where, like for example, today lunch, I'm in Texas, so I get the beautiful Texas barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
So me and a peer went and had some brisket, and I filled up on brisket and a little bit of green beans. That was at 11:30, 12, and what time is it now? 7:30 here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm having a little coffee, and I'm good. I am
Yeah.
so full from lunch still, and I'll have days like today. It's
Mm-hmm.
like okay, and I'm good with that. Now tomorrow, probably wake up a little hungry,
Sure.
and just it's just give and take.
Mm-hmm.
So yep,
Yeah. Yeah. It, it can be difficult to balance that. You know, I think the numbers for me, I would probably stress too much about it, so I don't. It was the same with like measuring ketones and stuff like that.
yeah,
I did it at first, but I haven't checked my ketones in, I don't know, a year and a half, something like
yeah.
that. So it's A, they're way too expensive. And B, I'm doing what I need to do anyways. So there's really no point. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't done any type of testing of ketones or anything like that in a very long time. I I also know I kind of know when I'm in ketosis, and I also can feel like if I eat something, especially if I eat something out, and even as cautious as I can be, sometimes they'll get that little bit of sugar or something
mm-hmm.
in the sauce or whatever the dressing, and man, my head starts popping.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, there it is.
Yeah.
Like I could just sense it, and it's like, okay, well, live and learn, and you move on. But
Yeah.
I pretty much know like if my body is cranking on ketosis or not. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It's one thing I don't think I've asked anyone else this.
okay,
What do you do, like, as far as one shift with me? Like, the first little while, I didn't really focus too much on specific ingredients. It was
okay,
more, I was eating jarred mayonnaise and salad dressings and all that stuff.
yeah,
But then I shifted all away from all that, like the crap oils and stuff like that. Have you
yes.
done the same thing as with
Yeah,
yours?
for the most part, I try if I have the time, to make something homemade,
Mm-hmm.
I'll put the oil in the egg and make my own. It tastes so much better too, like
Mm-hmm.
it just makes the food, so much better.
Sure.
I've gotten away from, well, I told you about the peanut butter. As much as I love peanut butter, man, that has just been a trigger for me.
Oh yeah.
It's just so bad. The crazy part, I didn't even real like I've always loved peanut butter, but not to the amount that I like it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
know.
and so I just I keep it out of the house now. But I was, even in the peanut butter, I was trying to go to places that would kind of grind up the stuff right there, and
Mm-hmm.
it literally was just peanuts ground up there, and then I would add some salt or different things once I got to the house, and
Sure.
that to me it tasted the best, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
so
That's the peanut butter is a strange one because yeah, like I would be lying if I said I didn't love peanut butter my whole life, but that was like regular, Jiffy or whatever, like
right,
the sugar filled stuff, and
yeah,
put a jar of natural peanut butter in front of me and be like, ugh. But now I could sit there with a spoon and
oh yeah,
just destroy a whole jar in way too quick.
oh
And
yeah,
it doesn't bother me that it's not sugar, like it's not full of sugar or anything. So
yeah,
you're right. It's that I think peanut butter and chocolate are my two sort of worst things
yeah,
to trigger me because I
yeah.
just can't stop eating it.
Yep. Yep.
So,
I've kind of proven that to myself too. And I think that's why, I just said, for now, at least for a season, it needs to just not be in the house. And I think recognizing those things, I mean, that shows growth right there, right? Because in
hmm
the past we would have not even, stopped any kind of behavior like that. We would have just been like, well, it is what it is. And,
Sure.
I like it, so I'm going to eat it. Now you're thinking through it. I did have a friend reach out to me though. And it was one day where it was over the whole weekend, and I downed a bunch of peanut butter over the weekend. He came back and kind of said, hey, he goes, go easy on yourself. Give yourself a little bit of break. We are just talking about peanut butter.
Yeah.
He goes,
Yeah.
compared to how you used to eat when you were, overweight, you're eating 4 packs of ramen at 11 o'clock at night
Hmm.
after you've already had a full dinner. Like, we're talking peanut butter, Tony. Give yourself a little bit of grace. And I was like, okay, I need to hear that too. But at the same time, it was too much,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because for me, it wasn't even, Jason, it wasn't even about the peanut butter, so to speak. It was really about the habit.
Hmm.
It was the fact that I was eating something and I wasn't having any restraint,
Right.
and it was also coming after a week of some really stressful things.
Hmm.
And so for me, it was like tapping into my old self. And it's like, yeah, it might not be the top ramen, but it's something. I'm still trying to feel in control by eating
Hmm.
this peanut butter and kind of like self-indulging myself. And so to me, it was more about that. And that's the part that scared me the most, you
Right.
know? And
Yeah.
so that's why I'm trying to change some of those patterns.
Yeah. Yeah. Like food addictions are pretty strong. Like
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people don't seem to understand. I think that
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, you can just have one piece of cake or one cookie, or it's like, yeah, okay, one cookie's not going to kill me, but what happens when I go home and I'm like, oh, well, that was really good, and next thing you know, you're at the bottom of a bag of cookies, and I like to. Ken Berry always puts it pretty well. It says you wouldn't tell an alcoholic, oh, just one drink, it's not going to kill you, or a heroin addict, just
Yeah.
one hit, it's not going to kill you. It's the same thing for people that are addicted
Yeah.
to sugar and all those processed foods.
Yeah.
People
Absolutely.
don't believe it, but it's true.
Right.
I ask my friends all the time. No one seems to buy into what I'm doing, but if you ask many people, saying, okay, well, could you give up sugar and grains for 2 weeks? And 99% of the time are like, oh no, hell no, I can't do that.
Right.
It's like, well, then unfortunately you have an issue. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. So it's always crazy when people tell me like how restrictive keto is, and it just kind of, I have to chuckle,
yeah.
because they don't really understand. And I think a lot of times they don't really want to understand. Um,
Yeah, it's I th- unfortunately I think keto's still, it's coming around better, I think, but I think it's still got a bit of a bad name as far
yeah,
as what happened with people sort of talking about, you know, therapeutic ketosis instead of nutritional ketosis, right? Like
sure.
everyone thinks we're sitting here,
Yeah,
eating sticks of butter and
right.
drinking bacon juice and
Yeah,
stuff like that. So,
yeah,
it's coming around, I think, but I think we're both the same way. Really, all you can do is just lead by example and
yeah,
hope that sooner or later things, people see your results, and you know, uh, I've had a few people that ask how I did it, and even a couple of people that have tried, but I don't know anyone that, like, within my sort of circle of friends that have actually tried and stuck with it. So it's
yeah,
kind of disappointing, but
yeah,
I'm also not one to preach about it either. So
yeah. Yeah, I don't want to preach to anybody. I hope that just from telling the story, and
mhm.
sharing your own story, that it will connect with someone, and that alone will be, something that's inspirational to somebody, because it, like me sitting on the bathroom floor 2.5 years ago, something
Mhm.
has to happen on the inside of you. You have to want to change.
Yeah.
You got to flip the switch. I have a guy that I work with here, and he got some bad test results back, from the doctor, and said, "Hey, man, I gotta lose 100 pounds, and and I see what you've done, and the whole thing." Well, that was 6 months ago. He hasn't made any changes,
Mhm.
and it just breaks my heart, because it's like, I know he wants to,
Mhm.
and I've told him my door's open. Let's have a conversation. Anything you need, man, I'm here for you.
Mhm.
Um, but it has to click over, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I think that goes back to, you know, that why again. And I found, well, at least with myself, if there isn't a reason to do something
right.
that's a big enough reason to do it. You know, I did the same thing. Oh, it's over 20 years ago when I quit smoking.
Oh,
You know, I
wow.
just said one day, I said, this is, you know, I tried numerous times for a while, for a couple of years to quit. And then I was just like, one day I'm like, you know what, this is enough.
Yeah.
And, you know, I said to myself, I don't want to be, you know, that person that gets lung cancer and all that. So I just
Right.
quit one day and that was it, I guess. But
Yeah. Wow.
so the same thing happened with keto. And, you know, I know a lot of people say, oh, well, you should start slow and, you know, you can start with just getting rid of the sugar or, you know, go from 4 Cokes a day to 3 to 2. But
Yeah.
that's just not I'm not wired that way. So it was you know, I'm starting January 1st. I know it's a little cliche, but
Yeah.
January 1st, I started, and that was it basically. So
That's awesome.
yeah, but I don't like your friend though. I think it's one of those things where, like you're saying, you almost have to get to that point where, you know, something clicks inside where
Yeah.
it just turns over, and you have to commit to making that change and
Yeah.
changing your mindset first before you try and change your body.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all, and I think that's the biggest part of this, right? Because it is such a mindset thing. It's a mind game. There's a, you know, and at the point of starting, you know, it's probably safe to say if you're a person that's been that overweight, there's something that's not clicking well in your mind, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's where it all starts. And if that's been your biggest battle, it really does start there. And so you got to find something that's gonna work for you. That's something that's sustainable. That's what a lot of people tell me. Like, oh, do you plan to do this after you know get to your goal weight? And it's like, yeah, I feel amazing. Like
Yeah.
this is sustainable for me. It is the
Yeah.
way that I want to live. And you know, don't you ever miss you know a piece of bread? And I'm like, well, sometimes. And if I really wanted the bread, I could eat a piece of bread. Like, you know,
Sure.
this
Yeah.
isn't in control of my life. I still ultimately have control. And I think that's the difference in the way that we think, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we think that keto is the thing that's controlling us, well then we're missing the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're still ultimately in control. And so again, it comes down to what you said, mindset. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. Well, switching gears a little bit here, I see
Yeah.
you've got a blog
Yes.
that's um, I haven't read through it yet. I plan to, but what's that?
Okay.
Is that something that's been ongoing for a while there?
Yeah, Colliding Moments was created really it was a place to kind of put a lot of my thoughts, and I have an artistic side. And you know my wife had one time said to me like, hey, you you either need to pick one of these things and do it well, or figure out how to put all of it into one into one place. And so I was like, okay. So yeah, I created the blog. It's a whole website. And really it was a place for me to dump a lot of the artistic side of me, especially the writing. But it was also a resource for people to, especially people that have done the same type of career that I've done, working with kids, working you know with churches, nonprofits, different things of that kind of thing, and just how taxing that can be. Because working with people, it's just hard, and working with teenagers in this day and age, it's even harder sometimes. And so
Hmm.
it really was just it was created as a space where people could just come and read and look and listen. And it's morphing even as we speak and you know I'm starting to kind of get away more from the youth ministry side of it now. And now it's more turning into something that has to do more with transformation, you know. And that's been because of the last 2.5 years of my life. And so that really is the focus of I think where it's going to be heading. And I'm excited about it because I have some really great ideas for it, but it's all in the beginning, like the new beginning stages of it. And
Hmm.
yeah, and I posted a few of the blogs on my keto Instagram platform because I felt like it was very relevant to, you know, it wasn't necessarily all about weight loss, but it was about transforming and who we want to be and who we want to become and who we were in the
Mhm.
past, and those things. And so I think it is relevant. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah,
It's often it's one of those things I've never been able to do is take what I'm thinking and put it down and into writing. I guess it's
yeah.
so I guess I chose video.
No, I think it's great, man.
Yeah,
We got to find the thing that works the best,
yeah, yeah.
and bring hopefully a light to the world and in how we're wired. And I always tell people it's our stories that connect us, you know.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think the more we tell the story, the more we put it out for people, I think the better we all are for it,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I
I
know when
think.
I watch your videos and when I listen to blogs or read blogs or watch, listen to different podcasts like, Gormy stuff, it
Mhm.
always, there's always a nugget in there
Hmm.
that I always just pull from. And I'm like, wow, that's so good. And that will help me that week or the next couple weeks. A lot of times I'll go write it down, somebody will say something really just profound. I'm like, whoa, I needed
Yeah,
that today,
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah. And I think that's and then one thing that's like the Instagram community's been they've been pretty good. Like it's growing every day. I think
yes.
there's some not so great things about it, but
Yeah.
so you get that with social media, I guess. But
Yeah, you do, and you see, like, I really appreciate. I have a handful of people that I know that they're supporting me, they're rooting for me, they're
hmm.
cheering for me, and I'm doing the same for them.
Hmm.
And then there's probably a few people out there too that, like, they probably never even look at your page,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and that's okay, that's
hmm.
fine. I'm not worried about that, but
Sure.
so the ones that really seem to be, paying attention and are invested, I try to return the favor,
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah. No, that's yeah. You have to try and focus on that and
yeah,
not
no,
worry about the noise that comes
right,
along with it. I guess.
yeah,
It's,
that's true because it can get noisy.
yeah,
It can
again,
get
that's
really
for sure.
noisy. That is for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, this has been great.
yeah, man,
One thing I like to ask,
sure.
if you could go back when you were doing that research before you started, if there's one thing you know now that you didn't know then, is there like for someone starting keto, is there like any words of wisdom that you would give them or?
Yeah, I would just say, and I think I mentioned it earlier. I think we do need to give ourselves. You got to give yourself a little bit of grace
Hmm.
because it's not going to always be perfect, and you're going to have to tweak things, and you're going to have to make adjustments, and there's going to be weeks where that's going to reflect either on the scale or in your head. And just go easy on yourself. Like, it's okay, and it's okay to ask for help. Reach out to
Hmm.
people, reach out and ask for advice, or whatever it is that you need, because there are people like you, like me, that are out there that are totally willing to help. um, that's what I would tell myself. Like, don't be afraid to
Hmm.
ask the what seems to be the dumb questions, and don't beat yourself up on the weeks that things weren't as perfect as you had hoped. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, that makes sense because any kind of movement in the right direction is worth doing, right? So
absolutely. Yeah. I think that what maybe that's what I would tell myself too is just, just get started, man. Don't
mhm.
hesitate.
Yeah,
Don't overthink it. Don't get in your
yeah,
head. Just make that first step.
yeah. I would almost, I like say I spent about 3 weeks before I started. Um, I had set a deadline or a start date for myself anyway, so it wasn't too big of a deal. But I got so far in the weeds with like watching Thomas DeLauer and
Oh
you
yeah.
know, Eric Berg and all these videos of, how to get started and all that. And, everyone sort of has the same end goal, but they go around it different ways. It's like your
Yeah.
head just starts to spin by the time
Yeah.
you actually start. So like you say, it's, you're much better off to just say, okay, this is it. Let's start. And then we'll work out the details afterwards. So
Yeah. Yeah.
cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
Okay, well, this has been great.
Yeah. Well,
I've like I say, I watched when I heard you on the podcast the first time. It was really inspiring your story. So I was, you were one of the first people I thought of when I started doing this, and wanted to get you on here so
Oh
that
man,
you
thank
could
you so
share it
much.
with other people.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
Well, I appreciate it so much. This was awesome when you reached out to me to do this. I was so excited,
yeah.
and it's a real honor. I appreciate you, man.
Well, I thank you for
Yeah,
coming on. So,
absolutely.
okay. Well, I won't take up any more of your time.
Okay.
And we'll get this one up onto YouTube, and we'll share it as far and wide as we can.
Yeah, and you'll let me know when it goes live so I can promote
Absolutely.
it from my
Yeah.
platform. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tag you on Instagram, and
Okay.
I'll put all your links and everything, and that your blog site. I'll put that all in the
Oh,
description of the video as well, and
yeah, that'll be awesome.
we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, man.
Okay.
I hope you have a great
Thanks.
evening.
Yeah. You too, Tony.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye now.